Hello and welcome to the channel where today we've got F1 Manager. Yeah, a little bit different, but it's just released and let's get going with it. If you're watching this on the YouTube, then the Twitch link will be in the description below for you to follow, so you can watch these as they're actually happening, with a lot more in it, of course, because I will be cutting bits out and just keeping the key elements in these YouTube videos just to make sure they're nice and crisp and short as possible. So, without further ado, let's switch over to the game and pop on the background music so you can hear everything as we go along. Now, hopefully sound levels will be okay. If there's any issues in this opening one, then of course, let me know and we will adjust going forward. But for now, hopefully everything will just work fine. Right then, if you've been following me over on Twitter, which is also linked below, then you already know where I'm starting with this series. Yes, Aston Martin is where we are starting. It's a brand that should be in the upper echelons of Formula One, in my opinion, and they're not, quite frankly. It's a high starting balance, apparently, but the objective is only 8th, which isn't that high. What do these do up here? Ah, yes, car performance, not great, although headquarters isn't horrible. And then as for employees, the game clearly doesn't actually have one of the most important individuals that is going to be powering Aston Martin forward in the future, and that's Dan Fallows, who is effectively the second in line behind Andrew Green as technical chief. Andrew Green is actually the chief. He's technically a level higher than that. But 3 drivers. There's Sebastian Vettel, of course, the 4-time world champion, recently retired in real life. But this is an alternate world where everything starts again as it was at the beginning of the season. So we can try and persuade him to stay, which we will. And then there's Lance Stroll, who exists, and the reserve driver, Nico Hülkenberg, a fan favourite, but at the same time, this is a management game. It might be well worth looking into that to see if we can bring in a youngster to then develop forward that little bit further. They were 7th in last year's. They gone slightly further back this year. And I'm actually going to turn off first-time guidance, even though this is technically my first time. I've watched enough of this to understand the bits and pieces already. And quite frankly, the tutorial woman is going to interrupt me at some point, which is going to throw me off. But here's the landing page for Aston Martin. I moved over the left because it should be less in the way in these pages as a whole, but otherwise I'll be covering probably the most important things down here, which is the time till the next Grand Prix, the amount of money, which I don't think you can change from dollars. It would be nice if you could. Nope, because the only things you can change are here. But we'll start with the inbox. There's a welcome here. Thank you, Audrey. This is your new inbox. It's good to get in the habit. I mean, Football Manager, we know about this. Inboxes are crucial. Now, the one thing I want to address here is, of course, that you've got all of the Grand Prix for this particular season. These will never change season on season. There's no way of altering this. Unfortunately, it'd be lovely. That'll be probably a feature in next year's game, I would imagine, is the voting and moving around on Grand Prix. Maybe, of course, there's a licensing issue with that. But any parts that we develop now are not going to be for this first race. There's literally 11 days. There's no way we're going to get any brand new parts on the car for that one. Saudi Arabia is March 25th, and then there is actually a bit more of a gap for the Australia Grand Prix. So we will be looking a lot further down Australia, Emilia-Romagna, probably Miami for parts and things. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel is out of contract. Patience is very high, and his negotiation attitude is open to negotiation, which that doesn't feel accurate, does it? Let's see if we can renew it. Oh, now he's not interested. Cool. I wonder if that will change going forward then. So we failed to get Vettel any longer. I hope the patience and attitude will soften over the course of the year. That might have been a mistake, but never mind. I'm not going to scout for a replacement because I'm not actually going to... Oh, Lance Stroll's contract is actually up at the end of the year as well. Scout for a replacement. So in the F2 categories, there's a few that we can look at here already, as well as, of course, the ones that exist in F1. I'm going to send a scout to scout Norris because realistically for Aston Martin, which is a British brand, even if they are, I think, German-owned at the moment, it would be nice to have a British driver in there. Can't remember the counts as British for this. George is not interested, but Lando would be open to negotiation. So his contract won't be renewed in game, but I think he still had a couple of years anyway, regardless. And then let's also have a look further down. Don't know who's British. I would like to get a British person in, but I know Aitken is, but he's 26. That's going way too far down, I think. But, oh, I just noticed there is an opportunity to tag these, so we'll tag him. Lewis, are you just out of curiosity? Negotiation? Nope. Thought I'd check. We'll just tag Piastri, of course. I'm not going to scout Piastri first. Okay, so Caldwell is British, so I'll give him a scout. He's 64 rated, but that's fine because he's the reserve one we're going to keep an eye on going forward. We don't need him to be quite as high necessarily. He's still got a year on his contract as Nico. So he could be the long-term thing to be paying attention to. Now, facilities, we're apparently all right. Upgrades 10 out of 30, 4 out of 15, and 7 out of 30 on operations. Decent boardroom. Hospitality exists, weather center exists. 2-star helipad is quite nice, which means slightly more payout. Memorabilia room we don't have, but more do we need? And the tour center brings in, a grand total of $13,000 a week. Still no idea why the game's in dollars. Literally only half are American, and neither are Frontier the dev, so not sure what's going on there. But development-wise, 2 factory, 2 design, that's not bad actually already. Wind tunnel, CFD, suspension's pretty solid, and car part test center's pretty solid too. And then staff facilities, team hub, team attractiveness, morale, and weekly experience gain for staff. Scouting department is already there, and weekly experience gained is 40%. It's 42 stars for that one, so that was the one I was going to be eyeing first and foremost, but the upgrade isn't a lot. I was expecting the upgrade to 3 on that to be a lot more than 2.8 million. We got 31 and a bit, well 31.8 effectively, so this would take us to 29. I feel like the weekly experience gain is probably one of the most important things in this game. I'm going to upgrade that. Now the team hub actually does increase the monthly upkeep a lot more, surprisingly, to upgrade that from 1 to 2 than the race simulator did. But at the same time, it will do exactly the same thing just for the staff though. An extra 20% weekly experience. I think long term, these are sensible things to do off the bat. Especially with the money that's already in the bank. I think these are sensible things to do immediately. Those experience boosts are going to be crucial. They won't kick in for another 20 days or so, though I just saw there. Meanwhile, wind tunnel is a 1. See, these are a lot more expensive. These would be massive things to... Monthly upkeep is huge to improve these. So I might just hold off there. And meanwhile, car parts development, we need to design and then manufacture. So right now, the car performances is, and I believe this is actually the best car, although effectively, they're obviously, both cars are even right now, so they will be probably 17th and 18th. 17th and 18th in top speed, same with acceleration, low speed slightly better, medium speed and high speed very bad, DRS bad as well, low speed. There is a way of comparing, and I suspect we are basically fighting Williams on all of these. Looking at the underfloor is one of the most key things in this year's F1, of course, providing that ground force effect, and even actually just with nothing on this, we can improve the downforce from low speed on 15th to 9th. Overall performance would improve from 15th to 13th in that respect, but of course that's not even using any of our wind tunnel or CFD hours. Next ATR period is in 56 days, so that's what, 8 weeks? And we get, well, let's put half of them into an underfloor. Let's use half of our hours and just see what that does. So, although at the same time, maybe pop this back on values, you can see that every single hour we add on here is adding a tiny fraction to the drag reduction. Not really changing a lot elsewhere beyond 29. That's the last time the downforce numbers actually get improved. So maybe actually we just put in 29. Meanwhile, the CFD hours do actually continue. Was there any difference between 2.9 and 3? There was on low speed cornering. It doesn't provide a lot across the board, but, you know, marginal gains will do something. Does summary, does that... Yeah, so you see, this is going to take 75 days to do. So I might as well... Miles will do this, and then Miles will do another part, which will complete our entire day's worth. Our entire allocation's worth of research time, because there's 56 days on the research allocation blocks, and it's 75 days to do that. So now, I think at this stage we are the worst car, so there's no real point focusing on any one. We'll just stick it on balance, so we'll just continue with develop. And we have 9 available engineers. I would like to... that brings it down to 54 if I use 5, which basically takes out our entire allocation window. So I'll use 5 on this, and I'll use 5 on another part. Now I'll take 900,000 to design, and we'll do a new... You know, in real life, they did a new rear wing. So let's do a new rear wing, shall we? Or maybe... I kind of want that high speed more than anything. So high speed is front wing. So let's try and do a front wing, shall we? And then let's use the remainder of these, because it's 56 days on an allocation block, so we might as well use them all. And I'm just going to use all the remaining hours, because there's no real reason not to. And again, summary, 50 days on that. So actually, we might be able to split it again, because that's 50, right? What's the last... Because 51 doesn't provide anything. 50, 49... 49 is the last one that actually does anything. Only leaves 2 hours, really, but again, just to show the rank, that will not really do anything, will it? Oh, okay. Wow. It doesn't actually prove that much, but I think in combination, it will be quite nice, because that high speed does go up quite noticeably, actually, on the high speed from 26.6 to 27.4, and that will help us, if it arrives in time, on tracks like Miami with the long straight. Bahrain's more medium, I would imagine. So again, that boost on the medium in particular is probably quite nice too. We'll go design focus now, and again, we'll just keep this all straightforward, straight down the middle. There's no real need to focus on any one area. We are the worst car, everything's a bonus. So, and again, we might as well get all 5 of them in. So that will be done in 36 days, but then we've got to manufacture them anyway. So let's confirm that project, and we're in. The race engineers are pretty solid actually as well. Meanwhile, our staff isn't. Andrew Grease's contract is 1 year. Ian Grease is 4. Okay, we are a little bit limited there. Pit crew's fairly solid actually. We'll keep them on a balanced, I think, for now. I mean, he's not great. It could be well worth looking at a pair of them. So we'll scout these actually once the driver scouts come back. Meanwhile, the head of aerodynamics has got 4 years left on his contract, so that's going to be a pain to try and reduce. We've got an important thing in the inbox to deal with. Go to sponsor obligations. So let's have a look at our obligations real quickly. Merchandising is pretty solid. There's a pre-season cost, but it does improve race by race. Race day factory event. There are 16... Your team must host a sponsored event in your factory on the day of a race session. Your factory will have to pause all car part manufacturing projects whilst hosting to get us £500,000 over the course of the year. Factory event again. Same. So these actually double up, actually. So that's not too bad. And then driver appearances. One or both of your drivers must make media appearances throughout the season. Lance Stroll must make media appearances to get 2.6 in 9 given weekends. In fact, it doesn't even designate weekends. And race weekend appearances, Vettel has to do 10 race weekends for 800 grand. I'll be honest, the obligations don't seem to bring in a lot, but in this case. But meanwhile, there's a party, 10 grand for driver and staff. Yes, can't see why that would ever be a problem. So there's a sponsorship also, the obligations are just automated. I mean, that doesn't look good, does it? And then the report for Bahrain coming up. I'll have a look at the race. There's performance targets to set up. So there's no loss on just reaching Q2 if you don't do it. That's cool. Q3 is a ridiculous... Yeah, Q3 is unachievable at this point, I would say. And qualifying position, if you were to get 15th, 90 grand, but you lose 22 if you don't. You can edit this. I can't edit lower than 15th, so I'm not confident. Finish position, if you get 15th, with both drivers, it's 200 grand. And then fastest lap is the only other option we can do. And there's a guarantee slot on hot streak. If I get 15th or higher with one driver in 3 consecutive races, I can get 500 grand or I can lose 136. I tell you what, I think that I'll hold off on that just until I see what the general positioning is for our team on this weekend. If we get 15th in this weekend, then I might reconsider that. But I don't think we can do it just yet. I think we're with Williams at the back in this sort of 16 to 20 slot for now. Anyway, to the race weekend, which might be handing over to Crofty for a second.
Welcome to the archipelago of Formula One. Bahrain might have a small land footprint, but it's showing its big spirit right now in the grandstand. Either way, it's time for another fantastic weekend of Grand Prix racing. The Bahrain International Circuit is a challenging track, and the cars routinely have to brake from high gear to low to take the narrow turn. With the need for downhill braking, the risk of locking up is one drivers will need to manage. It's all about focus and balance to get victory here. At this early stage in the season, there are still plenty of opportunities for things to change. In this sport, there simply are no guarantees. What will happen this weekend? Only time will tell.
I thought I'd just let Crofty get on with that. So obviously there's nothing going on here, but for the sake of the YouTube video, practice won't feature in the end point, so I'll see you at the end and just let you know how we got on. So 3 solid practice sessions out of the way. Vettel and Stroll not doing well in the third one, but we only ran them the once towards the beginning just because still learning the ropes in that respect. We've got 13 out of 15 on the performance bonuses now. Track acclimation for Vettel for some reason was slower. Must be something to do with age, I don't really know, even though theoretically they should understand the track more in the first place. But Stroll at 100%, car part knowledge 72% each, and did a little bit better with the confidence on Vettel than I did Stroll, but not too far off. Stroll's got one section that's on a bad, so we do know how to fix that if necessary. But we'll now move to qualifying, and you can see here, this is the issue. Traction there. So just minor adjustments on the other 4, but the traction all the way up there should actually solve that issue. And they'll have 1 flying lap apiece. Compounds, they'll use 1 of the 3 new softs. Oh, they actually return the 4th soft anyway, so not running that in the session was actually a mistake. So all 4 of those do get returned regardless. That's good to know going forward. Didn't realise that, otherwise they could have got another round in, but never mind. Meanwhile, I'm kind of happy just to leave Vettel's as is, although braking stability could do with going down a smidgen. Maybe? Doesn't really touch anything else, but that might fix that. So we will... It's not really going to go too far off the confidence setup, so ready, start qualifying, manage qualifying, confirm. I'll be honest, I thought Crofty had something to say there, but he didn't. Okay, just because he says something at the beginning of Saturday as a whole. I'm actually not going to click send out straight away because more likely to get in the way of someone if you send them out immediately. In fact, in that sense, I might just send Stroll out as a bit of a sacrificial lamb just as a test to see if this is going to be an issue going forward. In fact,
Yeah, loud and clear.
one of the Alpines has come out, so we might as well send Vettel out behind him. And off we go. And I need to get back in the middle. Just pop the speed up whilst they do the original. On board of Stroll as he's just started his flying lap. If there's any smoothers issues, then we can work on those. Wow, that was actually quite bad. There is a Mercedes in the way, but cleared relatively okay there. Did have to sort of compensate in the corner. Otherwise, I think we might be okay here. Vettel is in clean air, thankfully. Behind, we'll follow Stroll on his flying lap. Ooh, takes a bit of a chunk on the outside there. That might be natural, I don't really know. I don't remember doing that on F1 22 anyway, the regular Cody's game, but avoids that side, which is an absolute nightmare in the Cody's game, and continues down the back straight, charging down the DRS zone. Vettel behind in 100% clean air, which is really nice. That seems like a very drastic turn there, but not as smooth at all. But that might just be the engine. Round this rather nicely. Finds the apex just about. And on to, I don't know what we call this, the penultimate straight, I guess. Heading towards what I think is turn 14, the final turn. I think they actually class this as 15 in the game, as a sort of secondary little kink in the track. And he sets a 133. Wow, that was poor. I think he actually did get compromised by Hamilton a little bit, because Alonso's at a 132.4, although Vettel only marginally faster, so that is actually probably just our pace. I didn't think we'd be that far off. Makes Schumacher 7/10 faster. For some reason Vettel was going to take 8 seconds, and I messed up there by not reconfiguring immediately. That was just my bad. So Stroll should be back in time, but Vettel I'm going to have to send out on the same tyres, which is a bit unfortunate. I'll send him out with that pack. I'll send Stroll back. Oh, they've actually ended up going out together in the end, so that's not too bad. Ocon's still in the drop zone. We'll have to imagine he'll get out of that. Alonso's up there in 7th, so Ocon should be in that ballpark as well. I mean, we're both cars are very likely to get knocked out here. Probably with Mick Schumacher or Danny Rick or Tsunoda, one of those three. Most likely to in the drop because the Alfa Romeo's actually run quite well here. In fact, they're all on their fastest lap now. Despite being on used tyres, Vettel has actually gone faster in the first section. We are on board with Stroll, who is behind, also going faster. You can see Vettel just up the road. In the more TV camera, session is completed. This is the final lap, of course. The second sector marker is on that bend ahead. Vettel has gone faster again. There was a brief yellow flag in sector 3. But it wasn't there at a point when we were there. Ricciardo's gone wide. That will have actually ruined his chances somewhat. He's crossed the line, but Mick is actually still behind him regardless. That's a shame for Mick, who does get pushed down in 16th by Ocon. Can we push Danny Rick? Can Vettel somehow find 7/10? It's a tall ask. No, is the answer. Just find 5, in fact. And Stroll on new tyres doesn't actually go faster. I don't know why Vettel was going to take 8 seconds to replace Vettel's tyres. But 17th and 18th is how we line up. We do stay ahead of Albon, which is kind of crucial. Well, that's unfortunate. And here we are, race day. Bahrain Grand Prix. I do think there's going to be an introduction, so I will just back out of things briefly. And I'll see you on the other side. Once I've done this bit, of course. In fact, those last 2 setups were marginally better as well, so slightly confusingly, they've reordered the tyres, but we've got 3 sets of soft available, just because obviously we didn't get through. But 2 sets of medium and 1 set of hards. Strategies. Soft, medium, soft does look vaguely sensible. Let's see if their one stop is at all viable with Lance. If he's careful on the first, then he can just about do it. Estimated race time 1:30.50. Of course, we will get lapped in this, so maybe there's the consideration to bring him in a lap earlier. I just don't want him to be left behind at the beginning. Yeah, he probably will get lapped, so if we need to be careful at the end of that stint, we can do. But bring him back on lap 26, go on to hards, update strategy D. I'd rather you have to be careful at the end of the race, and we've sort of chanced it than anything else. And we have locked into A on this one, which is soft, medium, soft, a little bit more aggressive. Again, we are likely to be lapped here, so go more aggressive on the first, and then just obviously expect to be lapped and only do, 56 laps. So in theory, his is 1:30.46, his is 1:30.41, so it's apparently 5 seconds faster. But we'll see. We'll split the strategies in this respect. Obviously, Vettel, the more experienced, probably more measured overtaker.
And there's Sebastian. They're in the back half of the pack, so they'll need to work hard if they want a podium finish. There's Lance Stroll down the grid. With their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. Will their hard work pay off? Here we go with the Bahrain Grand Prix.
And I'm back.
It's lights out and away we go.
Thank you, Crofty. Also, of course, let's make sure we are pushing at the beginning on both.
Push. We're good to push.
Yeah, okay.
We'll deploy from the beginning.
Come on.
A blow for Aston Martin with multiple positions lost.
So,
Copy.
it seems as I was dealing with all those little changes, both drivers have got past Mike Schumacher, which is sad for Mick, but great for us. Just telling them both to deploy the RS, because we might as well at this point. Make sure we stay with the cars ahead. In fact, Stroll got past Vettel as well, I just realised, both of them. Stroll got Vettel, I did not notice that. He's about to... well, he's trying to do a move on Danny Rick, but he's on worse tyres actually, so I'll let them fight a little bit, see if Stroll can get Danny Rick. Still side by side. Has got the inside going into this corner, but has backed out? Nope, still alongside. If I can get him in clean air, then I do want Vettel obviously to get ahead of Stroll again. Lap 2 begins, and as I try to still navigate this, I am hovering over the don't fight teammate. The problem is, of course, in these early stages, we can't really do that. Be sensible, Lance. Be sensible.
Use overtake.
Okay.
Just blocking your entire screen at this point in time, but he is passed. Now pop it on defend. Someone's gone off in sector 2 there. Didn't see what happened.
Aston Martin with a great play there. They've moved up a place.
It was Russell who locked up in turn 10. He is... oh, he's all the way to the back.
Defend.
Okay.
We need Vettel, actually. On board with Vettel now. He is behind Danny Rick on lap 3. DRS activated at the end of this.
The DRS is enabled now.
I don't think that counts for us yet, but we're going to have to pop them both on neutral for the time being. This camera mode does actually seem to be a little less smooth than the others, but come on Vettel. You'll have DRS on Danny here, because it will count now. Danny trying to get Stroll back, of course, at this point, but Mick's on the back of Vettel too, I do notice. Latifi's on the tail of Albon. Bless him. Stroll now. Still defending from Danny. Vettel, what do we do with you? Do we try and make you push? Do we use a little bit more fuel at this point? Try and just recover it later on?
You can stop lift and coast.
Yeah, copy.
There's no point these two fighting all the way because Vettel's the one that can go straight through here. That might have compromised... that's definitely compromised him with Mick behind, but hopefully Stroll still has DRS here. He might have just lost DRS, that's unfortunate. So I'll make him push too. Bring him back on his tyres.
No saving required.
Copy.
Get him to harvest. You're on a different strategy.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Vettel is basically inside Danny Rick. Charging forward now. Come on, get him. We can take off the fighting because they're no longer back to back. We make sure that's on defend. Now he's past Danny Rick. 2 seconds up the road to Norris. Can we do that? Can we gain them? Like, I know we're on minus 1.1, but we can harvest that later on. We can deal with that later on. It's all about track position in this early stage. Trying to break that DRS train. Or just DRS at this point. In fact, it would be Sonoda, the one that we target at this point.
We need to charge it.
Okay, copy.
The important thing is we actually kept Danny Rick behind on that straight.
We just need to charge up.
Copy.
The idea was to push a little bit in the beginning one, but we're just going to try and manage the tyres a little bit more at this point. There's a gap with Mick behind Danny Rick as well, so
Copy.
my concern is we end up fighting Danny Rick this entire time. So I just realised Stroll was on.
Save fuel, save fuel.
I'll go back out into the outside view as Danny Rick goes. They're just going to be fighting each other backwards and forwards, I think, which isn't great, but might just be sensible to just sort of back off a little bit.
Fuel, all okay on fuel, do what you want.
That's the wrong message.
Okay.
We'll just make sure we get ourselves in the black again in that respect, or in the green as it will be. I do believe there is a setting somewhere that means you stay out of the dirty air. Ah, there we are. Being up Ricardo's chuff is not helpful. I mean, stay within a second, Seb. That's not what I meant. I think he still had DRS, that's fine. That's the main thing. Stay within the DRS, you're good. I might just say the same thing with Lance here, because he is also a mixed chuff. Russell's behind him, so I kind of just want him to let him through. Just because those tyres, particularly on this side, are a little bit warm as well.
Copy.
I'm not sure how much that affects things, but how are the tyres doing? Okay. I might actually just tell Seb to do the opposite. Charge forward a little bit more. Make sure you stay in that 1 second window. I can't really make Vettel push those tyres that much further.
Mercedes moved up a place.
In fact, these two can both go on neutral in terms of ERS now. Russell's past Stroll, that was inevitable really. Hopefully Russell can get Mick off Seb's back now. just trying to manage it. There's been an issue in Sector 1. I wonder what that was. Another car has run wide. Has Mick's got Vettel, actually. We will have a look at Vettel. Perez, sorry.
Just watching the Red Bull.
Turn 3.
And yes,
Goes sort of vaguely straight on. Didn't really lose that much time. More than it looked, actually, initially. Seb's got Mick again, and Russell's on the back of Mick, so this could be helpful. As they charge towards the second DRS. There's a big old train from Bottas backwards as well, just noticed.
they've moved up a place.
If there's any way we can get on the back of that, that'd be fantastic. For Stroll, let's just try and get on the back a little bit. Just going to tell Seb to defend from Mick with his ERS, just while Mick's got Russell for company. I don't know what's happened with Mick and Russell there, but Mick's gone like a full almost 2 seconds behind there, after being right behind Seb. Mick lost about 1.5 seconds on one corner. Russell must have tried something and it didn't really work out well for either of them. But Stroll, importantly, almost on the back of that now. Now he's deploying. Why are we now to -2 now? Oh well, we'll just keep an eye on that going forward. Except we're on the neutral now, so we shouldn't really be losing too much. In fact, something's happened again towards the back. Again, yeah, not pushing either driver on the tyres. They both got to look after them a little bit. Although, I think we can actually push Seb a little bit more. As it looks like Stroll and Mick are having a little ding-dong towards the back. But, yeah, brought his fuel back up again for some reason. If Stroll could stay within 1 second of Russell here as well, that would be great. Just so he can get that DRS on the main straight as well. Doesn't look like he is.
Yeah.
Just want him to get within that second, just to get in sort of aggressive areas. Unfortunately, it does look like Russell's got into Seb's DRS. And this will be easy pickings once he's sort of properly close enough. This straight now, maybe, could be the opportunity. I think the text got that wrong. I think that was meant to say it's insane how bad we are, not saying. But Stroll and Mick will just trade places now, probably. I want Vettel to get closer to Danny Rick, because Danny Rick's just driving by himself at this point, so if he can get into the DRS of him... I wish there was a way to just say, don't fight that particular car. It'd be great if you just sort of let that particular car go, like not, you know, don't really bother with that one. The only thing I can do now, of course, is when Russell does get past, is just tell him to get in clean air, because then he'll back off naturally. To a point where it shouldn't matter, although, let's be real, Seb shouldn't be doing the same speed as Russell anyway. And I think Russell might actually have the DRS on this back straight. Russell did get the DRS, so as long as Vettel stays within the second at the other end, we're alright. The target's just P15 if there's no retirements. If we can get that, that'll be great, but 16 will take. Yeah, Stroll and Mick are just going to be swapping places by the looks of things for the remainder of this race unless nothing changes. The only advantage is of course, when Mick pits probably ahead of everyone. I didn't check, but yeah, Stroll is the only one on medium. Stroll's the only one with a different strategy today. Vettel's actually holding onto his tyres quite well. I mean, I think out of everyone who's on the same kind of tyres, we're in the same kind of ballpark, but because all the top 10 would probably have done a lap on their tyres in qualifying, whereas the sort of 10th downwards won't have. They've had a fresh set for the race. Unfortunately, Vettel wasn't able to hold on to the back of George. Just be a little bit more conservative now. Although, back off for a few and then maybe attack. Mick's still just over 1 second behind Vettel, so that's not too much of an issue. We're still harvesting and we're not really gaining, which is odd. I do want a little bit more ERS in the tank. That would be nice, because Mick is getting a little closer. I might just tell Seb to neutral, just so we can keep that margin, hopefully. So he hasn't got DRS on this straight, has Mick, but I suspect he is getting closer. I don't want to tell him to push, but Mick's just got within 1 second. This might be a somewhat inevitable 16th, inevitable 17th, 18th, actually. Stroll could do something different, of course, with the one stop. He might end up a little bit further up. It'd be nice if Russell held up Ricciardo a little bit more, but I need Vettel to attack here. Oh wow, Mick just came from nowhere to do that. I need Stroll to get on the back of Mick again to make this more interesting. So I'll just use a little bit more of Stroll's fuel, because don't forget he's got to go a lot further on these tyres. So I can't really push his pace too much. Oh, that's just warned me the pit window is soon. Yeah, because we want to pit on lap 13, 14, 15, 16, lap 16, 15, 16. Probably a little bit ahead of everyone else. Oh, Stroll's lost them. There's no real point. You might as well just stick with your race mate.
Save.
Balanced is not safe fuel, but okay. I think we're just getting into a phase of the race where that passes a little bit faster. How is this gone this particular lap? Because he's still going quite well at this point. How are we doing on the tyres? We're still better than everyone else. Let's keep pushing this, actually. Let's stay on attack. We're still doing better than most. Seb actually got past Mick again, which is marginally annoying because it means they're all fighting properly now, but that's a shame. As soon as there's a DRS, they just zoom straight past. Yep, Seb. I think the issue is DRS is way too powerful. It does seem like the DRS is very powerful. And now down the main straight, back again. Already 40 seconds off the pace. But Seb just actually passes him at a normal place, which is interesting. Not even in the DRS zone, but of course Mick then just gets him in the DRS zone. Use defend here, because this is where he does get. So be sensible, deploy your ERS on this straight, hopefully. And that might help neuter things a bit. Well, it's kept Mick behind on that straight, at least. It's actually got a little bit of spare fuel, so... In fact, is this not the window to pit? Lap 15? It might just be a case of going a little bit more aggressive on each stint rather than just coming in earlier, because he's still on 46. But mentor and mentee still fighting things out. On lap 15 here. There's Mick in the rearview mirror. Again. Just constantly watching him in the rearview mirror. Anyone pitting at all? I mean, the front runners are on 40% tyre wear. Seb's still on 44 here. 5 seconds off Russell. Russell still hasn't got past Ricciardo, interestingly. It looks like they're still fighting with each other, somehow. And also Seb's has suddenly lost like an entire lap's worth of fuel, which is bizarre. Oh, the front runners are actually pitting now. Right, pretty much everyone's pitting now. This is actually effectively the lap that we should change according to the strategy. And it will get us out of this fight with Mick, in theory, unless, of course, he pits at the same time, which would be marginally annoying. So onto the mediums. I think Seb comes in now. We'll do this via T-cam, just to get him out of this fight more than anything, hopefully. Hopefully Mick doesn't pit as well. He doesn't. And then from the outside, we get to watch this. I think the competitive pit stop there was actually just Seb. Unless they're talking about Alonso and Zhou. Oh, don't tell me he's about to be in a fight with Latifi. Latifi's a little bit ahead. That might be alright. Stay on harvest. Conserve. Not really a lot we can do on that front. I think this medium stint is just damage limitation because we need to make sure we've got everything fine. Make sure these tyres stick around. Make sure that fuel sticks around. Make sure that ERS doesn't drop too low. Just make sure we've got everything. I know everyone's going to be pitting around us, so this is probably not the sensible time to be saving, but whilst there's clean air, sort of, it might be just sensible to do that. In fact, actually, minus 0.3, we'll just balance that. There we are. We'll just keep it on sort of neutral for that. Same with Stroll, keep him on neutral for the time being. Stroll's got another 9 laps or so, and he's sort of on pace. Could actually probably push a little bit, but bear in mind he will just go under anyway by the end of this stint. It's probably best to leave him as is. I mean, for harvesting RS, he's not really harvested anything, which is really annoying. So Mick pitted 1 lap later. He's just coming out of the pit lane. We're obviously back past the Williams of Albon, but I am somewhat concerned that Mick is still ahead here. Yep. He's just rejoined that fight immediately. Great. I'm kind of hoping that... Okay, Vettel is a little bit behind Mick, so there's a bit of a window there, just for him to operate in for the time being. Mick's gone onto hards as well. So we can do soft, medium, medium, or soft, medium, soft with a bit of a push on the assumption that we will be lapped at some point. One of the front runners, Sainz, hasn't pitted yet. Leclerc's actually pitted and got stuck behind Tsunoda. Not great from him. I'll go on board with them just briefly on the main straight. Tsunoda pitting this lap? No, Tsunoda's still not pitting. But Leclerc will get him relatively easily. He's behind Perez. I don't know what's happened there. Didn't actually see who was leading to begin with, but in terms of intervals, there's not actually that many people running close together at this stage. So I might briefly focus on this. Ferrari hounding down Tsunoda, who I presume hasn't pitted yet. He has not, no. Neither is Danny Rick, or Ocon, or Sainz from the lead, of course. Latifi's in now, as I think Seb got past him anyway. Or he might have just passed him as he entered the pit lane, which was perfect timing on Latifi's part. Thank you for that. We'll just keep Seb on neutral now. Going forward, he's got that buffer on Mick, so he's not constantly fighting him anymore, which will only burn tyre, which is not what we want. On board Leclerc, just watching the back of that AlphaTauri. Someone's locked up, actually. I don't know who that was. Didn't see it. Might be Norris. No, it was Latifi. Leclerc's got to be able to get... Oh, it's Leclerc on hards with Tsunoda still on softs over there. but I think he's got him this time. Yeah, Leclerc's got Tsunoda and is now still within DRS of Perez, actually. Ricciardo's interesting here. Coming out of the pit lane, has been passed by Stroll, of course, who hasn't pitted at all. And with Stroll only on one pit stop, of course, all the competitors behind him are actually now for position. So I might need to actually pay attention to Stroll a moment because Norris is getting close to a second. But Ricciardo comes out behind Russell, who he was still fighting with, so that has actually released Russell to at least catch up to Norris, I would imagine, and actually now's the time to defend on Stroll.
Okay.
Because Norris is within DRS, just try to keep him behind as long as possible, because the Russell overtake is probably inevitable. So if we can get Russell to overtake Norris first, that'll at least give Stroll some breathing room. Vettel, obviously, with a double... Vettel on the 2 pit stop strategy. Both still minus on a little bit, so we might need to conserve a little bit of fuel. Although somehow, with more fuel in the tank, he's got less laps. Work that one out. It might just be difference. It might literally just be difference on the track, but because they've both gone to 72 now. And I don't really know why we're still on board with Ricciardo. I think we could be in a decentish spot. We'll just watch Norris on the back of Stroll. I'd say we're in a decentish spot for zooming things up a little bit speed-wise, but we'll just watch Stroll defend from Norris, hopefully. Got another 6 or so laps until I need to pit Stroll. Keep an eye on Vettel's tyre usage. Could have possibly actually kept him out another lap on those faster tyres. At the very least, Stroll's kept Norris behind for an entire lap here on fresher tyres. Not bad going from Lance, if I'm honest. Won't be renewing his contract. That's not a spoiler, but I'm also not going to fire him immediately either. So we'll let things play out naturally here. And I think he's out of ERS, so keep him on neutral. Actually, just harvest. Let Norris by now. I was hoping Russell would catch up to Norris before Norris got past Stroll, but Russell's piece was making a meal of things a little bit.
And McLaren with
I
a
don't think we're off,
great
unless there's like a
overtake.
major incident and a lot of top runners crash or something. We are not looking at points today. We're barely even looking at top 15 because Russell will get past. I'm trying to get Stroll ahead of... trying to make sure Stroll stays ahead of Ricciardo here. That's about it. That's about all I can hope for. Or if somehow Vettel is massively faster on the final stint. Because there will be a lapping eventually. Verstappen, the front runner, is about half a lap behind. And we are just over halfway through. Just under halfway through. So he should get us. He's not super far behind Latifi at this point. In fact, if I pop it on to leader, yeah, Latifi is 120. So, and the lap is what, about 130 something? So he's only about 10 seconds behind. 10, 15 seconds behind. Vettel is another 25 seconds up the road. Just keep this ERS, Stroll. Yeah, he's within a second. DRS, sorry. He's within a second. I'm just leaving Vettel on neutral for now. Okay, he did slip out of a second, but of course he had the DRS, so that has brought him back up again to the back of Ish. Norris. Russell is gaining. Maxson's doing alright in 10th, but he does have Ocon for company. Meanwhile, Gasly has Alonso, Bottas and Zhou for company as well. Perez on the back of Leclerc. Oh, it looks like Leclerc's actually cleared Perez, actually. They might be having a back and forth now as well. I don't think... Oh, Stroll does have DRS. Stroll did get DRS then. That's not too bad. So I think Stroll's actually in a position where he's using Norris as a tow at this point because he does keep getting back into the DRS range by the point we get to the line. So he was in range by the time we got to that DRS line, so we should have it now on this straight. We should bring him close enough. Hopefully he retains that gap through these corners, so he's still within range for the next line. If he's out of range, then he's done for, basically. And he's a sit-in duck for Russell in the next 2 or 3 laps. Although, actually, 26... That 26... Yeah, not far off. He's within a second-ish, but he might have just lost it there with a... Yeah, quite a poor corner there, actually. And he's lost it. That's unfortunate. Just get Vettel to deploy a little bit to see if he can close the gap or make a tiny bit. But again, I'm not going to make him push because he's got to do this entire stint to lap 40. Yeah, Russell is now just taking major chunks out of Stroll. And I think it might be time to go on board with Bottas here. We'll watch this race play out here with 4 cars fighting for 1 position. Bottas gets Gasly on the main straight. Alonso, Zhou just behind. Looks like Ocon got Magnussen as well behind them. Still 12% for Stroll's tyres here. Neither of our cars engaged immediately. In fact, Russell actually is now within almost a second straight away. Looks like Magnussen got Ocon back again. Into turn 3, I want to call that? Yeah, turn 3. Russell is now actually right on the back of Stroll. We'll give the order to defend. But I suspect this won't take long. In fact, it might happen right now, even with defending on ERS. The speed differential between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes, I'm going to call him McLaren there. Nope, actually maintained on that straight. Basically, I just want to hold up Russell long enough to make sure that he only passes on the main straight, because at the very least it's a little bit easier for Stroll to hold on through the next couple of sections to keep in sort of as much DRS range as possible. over the next couple of laps. But his tyres are going off now. But let's not forget, he's on the same amount of pit stops as Ricciardo and Mick Schumacher behind. And I completely forgot about Vettel in the process. George should get Lance here. I don't think we can defend anymore. In fact, the best case scenario is actually if Russell gets past him on this DRS zone here into turn 3 as well. Because then Stroll's basically right next to him for the next DRS zone. But I think, unfortunately, Russell's going to get him on the back straight. It's not really the back straight because it's one of the closest bits of this circuit to the main straight. But unless George can get him before then, I think we might be unlucky here. It'd be nice if Stroll stayed within range so he got the DRS on the main straight again after this, but that might be wishful thinking. Vettel did close the gap on Mick, actually. He's the second closer now. Both of them on the margins for the fuel. Ooh, that was relatively painless, actually, as a pass goes. Only lost... Oh, he's still 0.6 behind. That's somewhat bad. Stay within a second here, Lance. That'd be nice. No, he's not going to. Literally within a corner, he's outside of a second. I really hope the line came before that went to 1.1 effectively. Oh, he did. He did just get it, so that's nice. At least he gets DRS for one straight. And actually got within a second for that DRS line, I think. So he might just get it on this bit, but then that's probably about it for Lance. We do have to pay attention because he is hitting his pit stop shortly. In fact, almost bang on. He's done well with the tyres to actually sort of stop them from going under by the point we need to pit him. So that's quite good. In fact, we could probably get away with pitting him maybe one lap later because I've got a similar problem at the end of the halves and I'd rather stay on the mediums as long as possible. Yeah, he's outside of a second for this one now, so that's unfortunate for him. This four-way fight up here is ridiculous, by the way. Bottas is now back down to 8th. Gasly's back up to 6th. Alonso's now the nearest challenger. Zhou's still 9th. And Magnussen and Ocon just keep swapping places too. But neither of our drivers have got anything really to focus on. In fact, Vettel's actually dropped off the back of Mick again. It was going alright for a moment there. Just obviously because we've gone harvest on the ERS, I think that's what's done that. But Alonso probably will get Gasly here. Bottas going for it as well. Is Bottas well positioned to get Gasly? He is. Lovely view from Zhou's perspective, actually. But Gasly squeezes Bottas out. I won't say it's the optimal just yet for Stroll, just because he's still got 3%. So I might just make him go as long as possible. If I can get this 26th lap in, I'm not going to push him, but if we can get this 26th lap in, that'll be nice for him. Just stay neutral on that now, Vettel. We'll just speed this up briefly, because there's nothing going on for this particular lap, but we do need to deal with something at the end of it. Just keep an eye on that tyre condition. Yeah, so we'll let Stroll do this entire lap, and then we'll pop him in the pit at the end of, or once he's past the entry, basically. Alright, so he is now past the pit lane entry, so we'll go on to the hards, and that is all we will do. That's all we need to do, just pop him in there. We'll come out in 18th, though behind Vettel, but Vettel's still got to stop again. And we'll just pop onto this for this entire lap, and then get back on board as Stroll comes around the last few corners. Someone's just locked up. Was it Mick? It might be Mick, actually, because Vettel's got a lot closer. We're not going to watch it just because Lance is about to come in for his pit stop. I'll press the right buttons eventually. We'll watch it from the overhead camera. Oh, I kind of want Vettel to push now, just because...
Happy to push.
Copy.
You can stop, lift and coast.
Vettel actually well clear of Stroll here, which is quite good. Actually, I don't think Vettel's quite close enough to make to warrant overtake just yet. We'll go on board with him, as he now does have someone in his sights. Russell's on the back of... Meanwhile, Russell further up is on the back of Norris. Someone else has just had an incident in Sector 1. Might have been the Williams, Latifi.
Gone wide.
No, it was Leclerc, actually. That wasn't in Sector 1. What?
Whoa.
Who spun? Oh, was it Stroll? Stroll's just spun. I wasn't watching him, but he's just spun.
Sounds like we've had a... Here's
We'll
the
watch that because
replay.
we weren't paying
Now
attention.
let's have a look. It's Lance Stroll.
Oh, Lance. Just coming out of turn 3.
What a spin!
Crofty getting a little bit overexcited there. That was barely a spin. But that's ruined his strategy entirely. We're just going to push Seb now, see if we can get Mick. Someone else is locked up again. A lot of locking up. It's an Alpine, I think, that's locked up. It's Alonso.
I think
As soon as we're past... Oh, we're not actually past Mick here. I was going to... Wow, even with DRS, we're the same speed as a Haas. That's depressing. So that's Alonso out of that fight for 6th with Gasly. Because once you lose that DRS train, you're basically done. Wow, Seb getting quite aggressive with Mick there. Pinches him towards the corner. I think we might be past. We are indeed.
looks like Aston Martin. has
Switch to
just
defend.
gained a race-
Copy.
Somehow we've just gone from minus 1.3 to plus 1.3. Back and forth on that one. Sorry, Seb, just giving you Ferrari-style messages there. I'm expecting Mick to be on the left-hand side here. Oh, he isn't. I think the defend DRS has worked in that situation, because Mick is still behind. But Vettel pinching the corner, hopefully still ahead now. Magnussen and Ocon on the road are still tussling for 10th. Russell did get Norris, but I suspect Russell and Norris are now going to be fighting for position. I don't think Russell's going to make any progress because he seemed to have trouble with Ricciardo earlier on, so I don't know what's going on with fuel here. I'm marginally concerned I'm burning fuel that I don't have because he's got less fuel than Stroll does, but yet Stroll's plus less. Gonna have to go neutral on the ERS before we run out of it entirely, unfortunately. Let's be sensible. But we do have one more pit stop here. Of course, the thing is, regardless on this pit stop, we are going to be taking it out of sync with everyone else because a lot of people around us, in fact everyone around us, is on hards. A few on mediums, but they're not fighting with us. And both Williams have actually been lapped at this stage. Stroll is close to being lapped. So that will actually mean we can probably push him a little bit harder now if he's guaranteed to be lapped. There goes Mick. In fact, it might be sensible actually to push him a little bit. Claire and I are having a fun time with things at the moment. I want to know how much we can get away with Stroll right now. But I don't really think there's much against us going on 16 times because I think this Vettel and Schumacher are just going to keep swapping places. This is going to have a little bit of a back and forth. Albon's locked up there. Where is Stroll? Stroll's actually been lapped already, I just noticed.
That's a new race.
Well, I think the rest of this race is relatively straightforward now. They're just going to keep swapping places. And now we're in the pit window.
Martin with a great play there.
I think we can actually push these tyres a little bit. We're still on 43%. We can push these a little bit harder now, Seb. I'll stay on board with you, but we'll just speed things up a little bit. Okay on the fuel on both sides. Mick just goes past here every single time. The DRS in that straight is ridiculous. I hope that's just a track-specific problem, because then Vettel just gets him back on this main straight, and then Schumi overtakes on the back straight. The DRS is far too powerful there. I think we might be able to actually push Vettel on the final stint as well, so we'll watch this from outboard as well. Yeah, because Mick gets right on the back of Seb here, and then just waltzes past whichever side he likes. Then Seb stays right behind him, so that he's within range on the return leg. In fact, Norris has just pitted now on lap 39. That's quite early for Norris. Yeah, we need to wait another lap at least. Oh, Mick's pitted. That's huge. Attack, attack, attack. We might as well get the most out of these tyres as we can. We'll leave the RS on neutral just because there's no one actually fighting us at this point in time. Otherwise, we'll just run out of it. He's close to being lapped, actually, is my only concern, because I don't want him to have to slow down for... Yeah, okay, pit him here, because I don't want him to have to slow down and lose like a significant amount of time to them. Hit this lap. I'm hoping the Ferrari doesn't catch him by the end of this lap. Or if he does, then it's negligible. But in the next lap, that Ferrari will have caught him, to the point where blue flags will be a problem. Yeah, that Ferrari's going to have caught him. That's fine, that's good. We'll pit him here, avoid that issue. Although they have to pit again at some point. We'll watch this as it comes in. Soft tyres back on. 16 laps on these. Well, 15 laps, because he will be lapped. Mick is coming down the main straight now. He's just had to deal with being lapped, I think. So we might come out ahead of him. I can't see. Interesting camera angle choice there. We'll manually deal with that. He is ahead of Mick, but he had to let Perez or Sainz straight through. Perez, sorry. Or Verstappen, one of the two. I think it was Verstappen, actually. Verstappen's behind, which means Mick's right on his backside again now anyway. So, great. So we're doing that ding-dong back and forward again. We'll stay on attack for this bit. We'll stay on push for this bit, just for the outlap. In fact, actually, Vettel might get DRS off Verstappen here. And don't forget, of course, Stroll's there on merit now. He's going there to the end of the race, so that lock-up and spin has absolutely ruined him, because he would be probably about 5 seconds ahead. He'd be ahead of Ricciardo still. Bye, Mick. We're on better tyres than Mick as well here, which is annoying.
Drop back a bit.
17-18. We need to make sure we stay behind to the point where we get him on that back straight on the final lap. That's all we can do here. I don't know if we're going to... No, we're not going to get past Ricciardo here. It's going to be an awkward situation, actually, as well, with the Ferrari coming out. As long as the Ferrari stays ahead, we're all right. We are good, right. Because we'd have to yield immediately if we got past them there. The Ferrari splits Perez and Perez and Verstappen.
Looks like Aston Martin have just gained a race.
And Sainz comes up behind Verstappen. Oh, there's Mick. Hi. But I think we're going to be in very much a holding position going into the rest of this race. So we'll just let them fight each other. In fact, I'm going to tell Vettel to harvest in the hope that he stays behind at some point. Although we have actually caught Ricciardo in this window. So we're sort of fighting each other now. Because these two are fighting each other, so we can get on the back of them. Sort of now a three-way, which is not great. Words are interesting. Yeah, Norris and Russell are still fighting each other, which is surprising. Alonso's behind Magnussen. Ocon's up to 5th. I don't know if he needs to stop again. He does. Someone's locked up in Sector 1. Might have been Ocon, actually. Or Schumacher. I didn't even register the fact that Schumacher was behind us. So it's just us and Danny Rick. With 11 laps to go, Mick is 5 seconds behind. So it's us versus Danny Rick now then. Problem is, they've got a faster car, so I'm happy for us to sort of hold position for the remainder of this race. Although Seb doesn't really care. We might squeeze Danny here. I'm just wondering how we're doing in the prediction, because don't forget, of course, we will be finishing one lap earlier than everyone else, because we are lapped
Aston
overall,
Martin with a
I believe.
great play there. They've moved up a place.
Yes, we are. 15th could be interesting. Ocon pits now. I imagine he'll come back out around Magnussen, because that's who he was fighting before. Well, half a second faster than Ricciardo, but that might just because we had DRS on him. Ricciardo's within half a second. I'm intrigued to see what it looks like. Depressing is what it looks like. Stroll's just going around by himself. I think he might have actually spun again or gone wide somewhere, because he was only 5 seconds behind Mick last time I looked. Anything interesting going up? Alonso's on the back of Magnussen. Ocon actually came out way behind them. Alonso, in fact, does... Oh, it's very tight with Alonso and Magnussen there. Magnussen just winning out. Meanwhile, at the front is Verstappen versus Sainz in these closing stages. Oh, someone's locked up. I wonder who that was. It might be Mick, actually, because it looks like Stroll's... Oh, it was Mick. It looks like he ran wide as he was dealing with traffic, maybe. Probably Perez. Yeah, that's Perez. Just watching these two go round behind each other. Russell had a big lockup at the beginning and ended up at the back of the field and has really struggled to get through, which I think it shows you the power of DRS in Bahrain in particular. That does, because it seems as soon as you get in a DRS train, unless there's a huge differential between them, like obviously Mercedes and ourselves and Mercedes and Williams, it seems very difficult for even Russell to clear a McLaren at this point. And McLaren are poor in Bahrain. And Gasly, of course, Gasly up here in 6th. AlphaTauri aren't a good car this year in general. Tsunoda's down in 14th and not really doing anything. Gasly, with the benefit of DRS with Bottas and Zhou, they're just trading places constantly. You see, look, we're just trading places with McLaren, even though we're a far worse car than the McLaren car. Still, even this McLaren car at the beginning of the season, we're just going backwards and forwards. We are building up, actually, a lap's worth of extra fuel here, so we could push. Oh, Vettel's just locked up. There goes that then. And he just has to get away with the approaching car to lap him. Is that one lap or two laps? That's just one lap with those cars in particular. Vettel's just locked up, and therefore he's miles behind Danny Rick, so there's nothing left to play for. Mick's 3 seconds behind. I don't think there's going to be any further changes for either our remaining drivers. So we might as well just go on 16 times and see the remainder of this out. The lapping vehicles might get Ricciardo and push him back into range, but beyond that, I don't think there's much of a chance either way, shape or form. Mick's got within 2, so I'm just going to stick Vettel on aggressive a little bit.
Happy to push.
I just want to make sure Mick stays outside of that, just so we don't lose another position. But the fuel's okay. I'm not going to push them on the fuel. Like, 1.5 is wiggle room territory. But we're just going to focus on Verstappen as this race closes, because he's got Sainz ahead of him. It's actually a Leclerc lap again. Close ahead as they start their final lap. It's Sainz from Verstappen, Leclerc way down the road at 20 seconds behind, with Perez 4 seconds behind him as well. Hamilton driving on his own, another half a minute behind them. Okay, so this is our final lap. Someone's gone off in sector 1 there.
Last lap, you can...
I think it might have been Perez, because it looks like Ricciardo's on the back of him. Well, Gasly in turn 11, it wasn't sector 1 at all. So Gasly's done himself in there, because he was fighting with the 2 Alfa Romeos, but we'll just return to the front for this remainder, because it doesn't look like Mick's going to catch Vettel, which is good news. He stayed outside 1 second. They're actually having to deal with traffic here. Verstappen right on the back of Sainz. If he can get him on this final straight, maybe there's something going there. And the pair of them are actually catching the AlphaTauri of Tsunoda, I think it is, but I don't think they're going to catch him in time. And it does look like Sainz done enough to keep Verstappen at bay for this final corner. Sainz rounds it, will go on board with Verstappen. Didn't realise it was on him. Sainz goes to the inside to celebrate or defend, one of the two. And it is Sainz from Verstappen. Leclerc's next. And Leclerc crosses in 3rd to complete the podium. We're actually lapped, of course, so we are going to be almost next. Ricciardo's the first lap car to actually cross the line ahead of us. Struggling with tyres, but you're in the final corner, Seb. Don't worry about it, mate. You're in the final corner. There we go. Mick's the second behind. We do get 16th. We do gain a place. Stroll going wide and spinning did ruin his one-stop strategy. Otherwise, he would have been okay, maybe. But crosses the line with a little bit of tyres to spare, not too much. Almost got lapped by Hamilton, did Stroll. In the end, 16th and 18th. 1 place gain for Vettel. That is it. Would have been a little bit more interesting had Vettel not gone wide. It's a long road, quite literally. We just wait for everyone else to clear up there. And thus completes our first race.
With a comfortable result for his
Just throwing away that. Magnussen, I don't know if Magnussen actually got a point for Haas there, because he was fighting with Alonso in the end, I think. Although they might be fine for 9th and 10th because I think Ocon ended up a fair bit behind. Yeah, they were fine for 9th and 10th. So Magnussen with 2 points. McLaren without any points, but will be the best of the rest just because of a 12th place finish there. So McLaren will be 8th actually because I think they're the only other team that didn't score a point other than ourselves and Williams. Obviously the drivers' standings as they were in the race. And yes, indeed. Red Bull 2nd to Ferrari, who did win the race with Sainz. Alfa Romeo 3rd with 2 points finishes with both Bottas and Zhou. Ahead of Mercedes because, of course, George had a weird race where he ended up spinning early on and ending up at the back of the field and really, really struggling to get back through the field. I've heard the DRS situation with Bahrain is limited to just Bahrain. It's not as bad anywhere else. As soon as George got into fights with Ricciardo in the first stint and then Norris in the second and third stints, he couldn't clear either of them because the DRS was that powerful that McLaren could just keep catching Russell again, which is very unrealistic. But again, we had the same thing with Ricciardo, who, despite the fact we were probably significantly worse than even the McLaren. So it worked in our favour a little bit, but it worked against Russell massively there. So yes, indeed. McLaren 8th, ourselves 9th, and Williams 10th. Decent race from Vettel, a decent amount of potential, but of course his growth potential is quite low because he's an older driver. And Stroll's growth potential is okay, but I think it's 1,000 points per thing you can add on. So don't think we can actually add anything for now. A sponsor bonus is just 3.8 million. No bonus clause to courses. There was nothing to gain financially from that. There's one important email to deal with, and that is the fact that the suspension has been manufactured. Yeah, so we got an AM22S2. We'll install it on 1. It's a minor fractional in dirty air, but we'll install it in Seb's car regardless. So Sainz qualified P2 and won the race from P2. And no retirements. Post-race debrief. So we have no development points. The experience of the next one is in fact 1,600, so I don't think Seb's actually going to gain any development points over the course of the year. Growth potential is low. Meanwhile, Lance has no development points either. In fact, he's got further to go for some reason. And of course, neither Scout is back yet with their reports, as that was 30 days. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is only in 4 days' time, so that is not far off at all, which means there's not going to be a lot in between these two. But thus completes the entirety of the first Bahrain Grand Prix. Thank you for joining me today. We'll be back with Jeddah tomorrow. If you want to watch that live, then hop onto Twitch at around 3 PM. This video should in theory be up ahead of that, so you've got time. Hopefully I'll see you then. Until then, the link for my Twitch, of course, will be in the description below. So follow that through, and of course, along with my Twitter to let you know when I go live, of course, in case there's any last-minute issues. But hopefully we should be fine. So hopefully I'll see you then. If not on Twitch, here on YouTube again. The YouTube videos will be one day after, pretty much, for the first 2 weeks, and then the schedule might change a little bit after those first 2 weeks. But for the first 2 weeks, daily uploads, daily streams. I'll see you for those. Ta-ra.